Hello. In this video, we're going to start in on an animation of our choice. So you can choose, as I said in the previous video, any number of animations you want to try this with. I'm going to show a sword attack. So I have a file that is a sword that I'm going to also reference in. And we're going to do the same kind of referencing that we've done with the rig in other animation files. So we have an external file that's our rig file. We reference it in, and then we animate it. That way we can update the rig whenever we need to, and the animation file will be automatically updated with any changes that have to happen to the rig. Usually it's something like weighting or something like that that has to be changed, or could be changed. So you want to leave that option open. Same thing with this sword. I'm going to show you a sword that I have, and it was built very simply, so it's just kind of a stand-in or prop for a sword. You can model or build your own sword, or use the sword that I'll provide. So along with the starter file for this week, I will provide the sword file if you want to use the sword file. Okay, so I'll just go through doing this one, and I'm not going to break it into a bunch of videos for each section. I'm just going to go right through the lesson. We already understand some fundamentals of animation, so I'm just going to show you how I approach an animation, show you a few techniques here and there. Just kind of watch along and see if this makes sense for you to do this animation or try your own. Pick up some of the techniques. Learn about some IK on the animation on the arms. And I'll keep it relatively simple, just so we get a good understanding of what a combat sort of attack animation would be like. So the first thing we'll want to do is set up our scene. So if you're in a Maya file, you have Maya open, just do new scene. The first thing I might want to do is actually open up the sword just to show you what that looks like. So I opened this up. I'm going to switch it to 30 frames per second. Make these down here on the timeline. Just make this start at 1 to 250. It really doesn't matter, but I just like to have it all be clean here. Okay, and it's at 30 frames a second. I'm going to go open up that sword file, and we'll just see what it looks like. This is the sword that I made, and I'll just show you. I won't save that. So here's the sword that I made, and I have it on a layer, and all that it is a mesh. But the way that, if I go to the translate, the way that I have it set up is so that its center point is right at the origin. It has no translates, rotates, or scales on it. It's one piece of mesh. You could have multiple meshes if you want, but simply for me, I don't even have a texture on it. I just created this pretty quickly, and I have it oriented in this way so that it's pointing down Z, and it's flat up and down like this. Only because that's kind of the default position I'm going to bring it into the scene. You might want to have it going up and down, or you might use a weapon that someone else made that might not be oriented the same way. You can always fix those things later, but I like to have it sort of at the origin, pointed in about the direction that I intend to be animating it, for the most part, sort of a neutral position that it'll probably be in, pointing down Z, where my character will be pointing down. That way, when I do rotations with a sword, similar to the joints and their local rotation axes, I'm sort of choosing to have it oriented in a way where on this one, probably X is going to get the most rotation on it. If you start having X, Y, and Z rotations all together as it's swinging and moving around, it starts to, you can get into trouble with a gimbal lock situation where two axes fall on the same line, and then you don't have a third axis to really work with. So I just do this as a simple way of doing it. If you start with something like this, you'll probably be happy with the results and not run into any problems. So just want to show you how simple this is. It's just a sword, and it's got everything zeroed out on it. Okay, so now I'll go to a new file, new scene, I mean. Won't save it, and my default is to make it 24 frames, and I just leave it that way because that's the default for Maya, and if yours, whatever you're working with, you can set yours to whatever you want, but I'm just assuming you're opening Maya for the first time every time we do one of these. So I have a scene here, and let's see, first thing I want to do, I'm going to make this animation about 30 frames long. So I'm going to set my work area here on my time slider to 30, so that I'm looking at 1 to 30 along my time slider. That looks good to me. I'm just going to make sure I follow along exactly with what I've written for you all so that I don't go too far out of bounds and make sense. We want to go into the reference editor, so we go to File, Reference Editor, and this is where we're going to load what we need to load. So first thing we need to do is create a reference for the sword. We want the sword as well as the rig. I'm going to go up one and get to the rig, and the rig that I want to use is this file. So that was chapter 5 for me when I was earlier working on this version 8. That's my most recent rig. Okay, so there it is in the scene. And then it uses the namespace here, and then I'll add another one, create a reference, and this time it will be for my sword. So yours will be located wherever you downloaded it to. Reference that in, and there's the sword. So I'll close this up and zoom out, and we'll see I have the finished rig all set and ready to go, and a sword. Okay, so at this point, just because we have these things in here, let's save our file. So I'm going to save our file, save scene as, and I already had some in here that I had been working on, so I'll just save mine in here, and I'll call it SwordAttack B01. So that's what I'm calling mine. You can call yours SwordAttack. I'll just call mine SwordAttack B so I can see that it's different than an earlier version I was working with. Now this is asking me, it kind of asks you to save a few times just because it has multiple references in it. It's kind of reminding you you have a student version. Okay, so here we go. We've got our file saved. We've got our character and our sword. Now we want to create a couple of locators. So a locator is an object that is kind of an empty object. It doesn't render, but it allows you to, it's kind of like how we were doing groups. You can use locators instead of groups, and they kind of act the same. Groups have no visual to them. So when we created all of that hierarchy with groups for our rig, we were utilizing these groups where you could see them in the outliner, but you didn't see them in the 3D viewport. With locators, they're the same thing as kind of a group node, but they have a visual that's sort of like a three-dimensional sort of crosshair, which allows us to select it and know where it is in the scene and utilize it as another sort of null or extra object in the scene that doesn't render when you do rendering. It won't actually render, but it's useful as a tool. So we'll create a couple of those, and let's look at our, I want to look at our layers here for a minute. So I had a sword layer in my reference file. It updated this file now with any of the display layers that I already had. So I've got display layers from both reference files all collected in one place. So that makes it easy because I have the sword on a layer, you know, I have this mesh on another rig, and then the mesh on another layer. I'm going to turn everything off and just put the locators in here for a sec, so I can show you what they look like. Okay, so we just go to Create, and then, oops, Locator is down here under Construction Aids. So we'll do locator. Now we have this locator here. This is what it looks like. And if you ever need to get something right in the middle of your screen, you just type F and it'll zoom in on it and center it. So has these shape, local, position, and scale, but it's like anything else. It has these normal channel box things. We want to name this locator. It looks like this, kind of looks like how it does here for its little graphic icon there. For the locator, I'm going to name this one hand underscore L underscore LOC, which is kind of how people like to name locators. And then I can just duplicate that one. So I'm just going to hit Control D and duplicate it and name this one and R locator. So we want a locator for each, there's two of them there, locator for each hand. And what we're going to do is translate these locators out in front of the character where the hands would be holding the sword. And then we'll parent constrain each of the IK control curves to the locators themselves. So I'm just going to look through my notes, make sure we've got it. I do realize I need to add a note here. Talking about making sure that the sword is up in front of the character. So I'm going to just take both of these, select them both, and I'm going to turn on all of those 3 layers there. And what I'd like to do, hit W, and I'm moving them both at the same time. I'm going to put them out here. Somewhere out in front here is kind of where I'm thinking the sword is going to go. We're going to create sort of a ready pose out here. One is going to be for each hand. I think the right hand is going to be on top. So we'll do a right-handed sword swing. So this character will make right-handed. And so for a left-handed character, you do the left hand on top and do a left-handed swing. The dominant hand is sort of on top when using a baseball bat or a weapon. You don't do it this way, you do it this way. It's kind of a way of getting power into the swing. So the right hand will be a little bit higher than the left one. And we'll just kind of put them out here and see what happens. We want the sword as well. We'll just bring it forward and up, kind of out here. And let's just get things lined up simply. So if I move this out this way and this out this way, I've kind of got these locators here. What I want to do is make the hands connected to those. And then we'll connect these locators to the sword. Okay, so first things first, I don't want to be using FK. So you see IK, FK, and when it's on 1, it's on FK, and you can see the FK curves here. So I want both of these to be on IK. So I'm going to middle mouse drag with that attribute selected. And if you did your rig correctly, those would turn off. Those curves will turn off their visibility, and all you'll see is the IK here. You'll still see your finger FK controllers and your clavicle, because the switching between IK and FK is really only for the arm and not for the fingers or the clavicle. Okay, the way that we've built it. So we're going to parent constrain each of these curves to the corresponding locator. Okay, so let's figure out how we're going to do that. So if I select that curve or that locator first, and then I select the curve and go into rigging, constrain, and do we're going to do a parent constraint. Do parent. What just happened? Did it do what I wanted to do? what got the parent constraint? Not the locator. So we did the locator first and then the IK handle. So now moving this moves the IK. So that's great and all, but I actually want that over here before I do that. So let's make sure we position things first. And I'm going to go find that curve in here because I just made that. Control IK handle constraint. I'm going to undo that. So it doesn't have that constraint anymore. So what I really want to do is put these in a position where I want them. So I'm just going to drag this over here, bring it down, rotate, kind of get it in a position that I like. Maybe I've got this sword too far away. So putting the hand here and trying to get it in a position that I like. Position the sword too a little bit better so it's kind of already at an angle. That'll help with the way that this looks. And put it in a natural position here where it's right in the middle. And the left hand is sort of going to be on the bottom. And this right hand, we'll move it down and over like this. It's going to be a little bit higher. And I'll rotate it so that it's starting to get in position. Move it up and over a bit. So kind of get it lined up a little bit like this. And this one, something like that. This one might need to be more snug up to the top here and rotate it a little bit more so that it's... So just positioning these things to try and get them in a good spot. And then we'll sort of make sure that the locators are where we want them. Because here's the thing we can do is we can actually take the locator. Let's close all this up. Find our left-hand locator. And if I select it and then select this and say match transformations, I've now moved it right in the center here. And if I make things see-through, we'll be able to see that. It's now right where we want it. It matches the hand. So we just matched it. And so let's do the same thing with this hand. We want it in exactly the same spot as that. So we're not doing a constraint, we're just telling it to go there. So modify, match transformations, match all. Now it's over there too. So now at this point we want to connect this to the locator. So we start with the locator, left hand. I'll make this visible again. Well, you can't see the locator, so locator's in there. So I start with the locator, then I'll shift select that curve for the IK handle or IK controller curve, and then do constrain parent. So now if I just select the locator and move it, it moves the IK. So I'm kind of giving it this intermediate connection in between the two. This allows me to connect and disconnect that at will. So I can also connect the other IK controller to this locator. So the hand R locator, and then shift select the right hand curve, sorry. Constrain parent, and now just to double check, that locator is now controlling that hand. Okay, now We want those locators driven by the sword. So last thing we'll do is just make sure I've got this one right. We're going to select the sword, the thing that's going to be the parent, and then select a locator and do constrain parent. So now if I move the sword, you can see it's moving that left hand. And sword, select sword only. Control click in the outliner here. It's easier than selecting it here. Constrain parent. So I've kind of created, the IKs are connected to their own locators, and those locators are connected to the sword. I could have just connected the IK to the sword, but this allows me to detach and reattach to these locators. I could move these I could have other locators in other places and have constraints to them, and so there could be different positions that I want, and I could put different locators in those spots where I want the hand to go to, so I could blend or animate between different constrained locators instead of detaching from one from the sword and then grabbing it in another place or something and having to reattach them. So it's just a way to have an extra tool there to help us. So with that done, we can see now that if we move the sword in any direction, we'll be moving that. So we've got the hands there. Now we want to start with our some of our poses. So we want to block in some poses, our key poses. We'll use IK for the legs. So the default on our switcher here is going to be 0, which will give us our reverse foot. Remember, we've got these IK poles for the elbows, so we'll be using those to arrange the elbows. We want to get a good grip on this here, so we'll probably want to get in here and make that grip look good. So first thing we're going to do is just create that first pose, which we want to go to frame 1 and move all the different curves that we have at our disposal through our selection sets, and make sure that we create a nice ready stance for the character, that it's kind of ready to do battle. Let's just start with the hands, since we want to make sure that we got a nice grip here. So I can either go through here and select each one in the view, right? So this is one way of doing it. I kind of click off to turn off the rotation thing so that I can see. This is where you might find that you need to adjust some things even more, but let's just try and see what we can get here. Make it as realistic as possible. So I'll go through this. Why don't I select, I'll go through here, open up the arm. And you can see here, just to let you know, so when I have that visibility turning off and on with the switcher, it turns off the visibility here. So you'll see that switch on and off in your selection sets as you animate or switch those things. So here I've got middle, so I'm just going to rotate them all. See where it gets to. Yeah, it can come all the way around to about there. Maybe this middle one comes a little bit more. Maybe not so much with the tip. And maybe this is kind of scrunching together. Okay, so any way you want to select, you can select in here, you can select out there. If I'm going to select a few of them, just to make it clear, I like to see them selected here, so we'll grab all the rings. Go like this. Just make sure that it's coming around there. and looks a little bit more natural. We'll just do our best here to make it real quick. This one, pinky. All right, and you know what? You know how to do this, so getting that like that and making sure that some of this kind of scrunches together as we grip. Okay, try and get a natural grip happening. You're going to have some bend in the thumb. It's going to need to maybe rotate a little bit like that. And probably up in here. Give it that grip. I'm going to quickly go through the other one just to, in the interest of time. So there's that. I'll open it up in here. I'll grab these pointers. Let's just quickly wrap them around. Wrap it around. For you, make sure that you get it just right. I'm going to kind of blast through this to make sure we get to where we want to. Move that over. You know, your hands, your fingers kind of squish together. It's called spread. Sometimes you can add that to your rig, have a spread to your. Let's give it a little rotate here. And that last bit of the thumb can kind of, you know, it's not perfectly in the palm there. I might, we'll be okay with this. So there we've got a nice, you know, first pose for the hands. And if I rotate, you'll see like now I've got the hands stuck to the sword. So we'll move on and we'll get a nice pose here on frame 1 for everything. First thing I'm going to need to do is, and I'll just go quickly through this. Your center of gravity is going to be down a little bit. I'm going to put, whoops, let me go to frame 1. I'm going to put the character's left foot forward and rotate it out a little bit. Left foot back and out a little bit. I'm trying to get a sort of a ready stance. I'm going to move these knees. I think this knee could be moved out here a little bit and this knee moved out here a little bit. Open up that area. I think also that the hips with that left leg coming forward will also be rotated a little bit. And then it's okay, I think, to have the character kind of standing up straight, maybe a little bit forward with this one. Just coming forward a little bit. And then I want the character, I'm going to grab both the head and the neck. Look at it from the front view and make sure that the character is facing directly forward. So I'm going to bring it up and turn it. Maybe straighten it out so that we know this character is looking directly straight ahead. And now we'll play with the arms. So what we want to do is figure out where we want this character to sort of be in its ready stance. So we want to have it sort of ready to fight, sort of out and ready to fight, not pointing straight forward, but sort of relaxed and holding it up. And then there's going to be, you know, an anticipation and sort of a wind up, and then a swing with a hit, and then a follow through, and then a coming back. So that's kind of all of the different things we have to think of. These keyframes of sort of a ready stance, sort of our anticipation frame here, sort of the wind up. Then the swing where it connects is another key pose. And then the follow through where done with the action and kind of following through the motion. And then one more, which is just, besides coming back to the original position, there's also the sort of coming back into it. So with this, I think we'll bring the sword up a little bit, move it maybe off to the side. You can see this arm is getting all tweaked, but don't worry about that yet. Let's just get the sword in a nice position where it feels like sort of a ready position. Okay. And bring it down a little bit. Make it as natural as possible here. Sort of holding it. Okay. And now let's play with what we've got with these elbows here. So I'm going to move this a little bit down and closer in, just so I can get a feel for, in 3D space, sort of where that's pointing. Kind of even grab it in the middle, sort of move it around until it feels natural. You got to do the same for the other elbow. Bring it down, bring it out, you know. Going to kind of have it, I think it's going to be sort of pointing down here. Maybe out a little bit more. And now let's look at what's happening with the wrists. You know, the wrists don't look too natural. Let's make sure that we sort of even the amount of rotation between them. Okay, so I feel okay with that as a starting point. So I would say that would be our initial keyframe. That's a good one to start with. You know, the hips are still in the center of the world. You've got your legs out a little bit. Might want to spread them out a little more. You know, feel free to, you know, spread the legs out a little bit here. Just get a little wider stance. See if that feels natural. Even from behind, if you're thinking of a third person, check your camera. You know, think about a third person game and how that would feel if your character seems like that makes sense, or whether they feel like they're falling. This foot might be too far forward. Don't want that center of gravity to be sort of between those two. That feels a little more natural, something like that. And so with all of that, if I actually go here and just select everything here, I will select all of the curves, the locators, and the sword. And that's fine. I can just make a whole pose out of all of those, because I might want to adjust things with the locators at some point in the animation or not. I'm not sure. You know, if you want to twist the hands around it, you can move those locators. So let's just select them all. So just in the viewport, just select everything and hit S. And now we've got our first keyframe. And we know we need that keyframe at the end too, so we might as well put it there. So we'll go right to the end and hit S. So now we've got it bookended. We've got our first and last keyframes for our ready pose. Now we'll do our anticipation pose. So our anticipation pose, let's see, we'll do it at frame, how did I do it in my notes here? Make sure that if you want to follow. This is a pose where the character is charging up their energy to release. So think of a batter in baseball, pulling the bat backward and twisting before releasing the force of it. So we'll do this at frame 10. So if we go to frame 10, this is where we want the character to sort of come up and back. So I'm going to start with the hips. They're going to twist a little bit more in this direction because we're going to twist, and we'll probably rotate back just a little bit, and we'll be moving back. So kind of moving back and even rotating a bit this way. So we're kind of arcing ourselves. And so that's what we'll do. So I look at it, it's just a little bit more arced like that. And then what I really want to work on is the torso. So if I just go look at my selection sets here and look for torso right here, I'm going to grab spine, spine, spine. And I'm going to sort of bring them back. I also want to twist them. This is really where you kind of get this big twist. Okay, getting ready. And then with the neck and the head, I still want to make sure that they're facing forward. So I'm going to counter rotate them. I'm kind of looking down. They're still looking forward. And now I'm going to deal with the sword. So where do we want this sword? The sword, I'm going to be careful to go. It's going to be going straight back. Oh. I don't think I want those keyframes on the locators. No, maybe. So I found what the problem was, and I'll move on from here. Once I created the keyframes for everything, what it does, and it's kind of interesting that it does this, these hand locators, they have this attribute on them called blend parent, and they actually get set to 0 by default, which means they're not doing the constraining. So I needed to set those to 1, blend parent on both of these to 1, and then keyframe them. Just make sure that blend parent is on to 1. So that attribute is telling it whether or not to, if I'm keyframing the blend, by default it's going to do it. It does it off. So now this is moving those locators, but not the hands. The same thing happens with the IK hands. Let's go into here and look at the IK hand inside the rig. Looking at it in here, that's where it is. And we don't have to go into the rig to see it, but just selecting it here, you can see blend parent here is 0. If I click that, middle mouse drag it to 1, and then hit S. Do the same for the other IK controller. Make sure that it's set to 1. Hit S. Now that keyframes it on. So now we've got what we want. So as soon as you start making, once you set up your constraints to these locators, it works. And then when you set your keyframe, it kind of defaults to being off. So you need to go and make sure that they're all turned on. Maybe the assumption is that it's something you're going to want to keyframe on when you want it on. So as soon as you set a keyframe, it defaults to 0. So you just have to switch all those. So now, sorry about that. Now we'll go back to making frame 10. We'll set this up. I'll go back so I didn't set a keyframe on anything at frame 10. Turn it back this way. Move back a little bit. Go to torso, all of the spine. Rotate all of it back. Maybe even twist it to the side a little bit that way. Really want to get a nice pose there. And with the neck and the head, turn them back. I'm going to look at it from the front. Make sure that they're looking relatively forward. Swinging this big sword, should be able to move it now. And where do we want this sword? We want it back up here. Rotate it. See, we're not getting those blends right. Oh, see? Oh, because this last one, the blend parent here. Let me just move the sword where it needs to be, and I'll show you how to fix that. I'll move the sword here for now. Let's make sure that blend parent on these is back to 1. I forgot about the last. Forgot about the last one. Save that. to 1, save that, and then I got to do the locators. I mean the hand. Sorry, it's a little confusing. I want to make sure that that is up there, hit S, and that one, blend parent up there. Still have the first keyframe on the last pose here with it at 0, which is why it was fighting me. So let's get a good pose here. I almost think we should move that knee a bit. So select that knee and you sort of see the character's knee move out a bit. And we'll move this up, back. Really kind of get it positioned nice up and high. Like I'm going to really cream you with this. Rotate it so that the hands feel pretty natural. Okay. I'm going to jam through this pretty quick, so as soon as I get something that looks relatively good, I'll stop and we'll do it. So another thing we need to think about here is the elbow. Where's that elbow going to be at? Just kind of move it around until it seems right. I think this can rotate a little bit more this way. Seems a bit more. And bring in this elbow a bit. Maybe too much. I'm just grabbing it in the yellow because I can just move it relative to screen. Now with this, I like to take the clavicle and move it down a bit and forward. So that's what that arm's doing. And then with the other clavicle, it kind of scrunches up. We get that sort of shoulder scrunch and back a little bit. Kind of scrunched up there. Maybe too much. And that elbow needs to come out a little bit more. Then you just kind of fiddle with it till you get a shape that feels right. I think we might want to move this whole thing over. Okay. For the most part, that's looking good. That knee moved. I think this knee would move a little bit too, right? Just a little bit. Okay, so feeling pretty good about this. Maybe these need to turn a little more. Just a little more. There we go. All right, I'm feeling good about that. I'm going to select everything in the view. Hopefully this setting that keyframe is going to be good. Go back to the first position, middle mouse drag it to the end so that all those blend parents are done correctly. And now I've got up to there, anticipation, and then back down. So if you just want to bring it up and put it back down, bring it up and put it back down, that's what you'd get, but not much of a hit there. So that's our anticipation frame. Sorry for all the muck-ups in there, but we'll move through it. Now we'll do the strike pose. So this is where you're actually hitting the enemy. So at this point, we're just going to bring the sword down and have it sort of hitting some imaginary enemy that's right here. So some of the things we want to do is take the hips, and we're going to do this at, let's do this at frame 13. So really quick. We'll take those hips, kind of straighten them out, actually turn them, because you're now going through the motion. You're almost directly facing forward. I might choose spine, neck, head, all of those, and go to rotates, select them all, hit 0, and that just zeroes them out. So I'm starting from a very neutral pose. So this is where the character is going to be leaning forward. Okay. I might grab the the sword and start to bring it where it's going to need to be. I'll rotate it around this way. Rotate it around this way. You're going to kind of slice through the character. Bring it down somewhere out here. And we want to make sure that our character is, all of the spine is rotating forward. You know, really getting into that hit. And the neck and the head are still kind of up, looking at what the character's doing. Maybe there's still a little bit of a lag, so the spine might be rotated a little bit on Y, just a little like this. We want this sword to be going directly through our character, and maybe we'll have it sort of a body hit, so a little bit further down like this. I'm going to take those two, I'll take that clavicle and make it 0, and make this clavicle 0, just so I get them zeroed out and I know where I want to go with them. And actually, this one is going to come rotating in a lot more than the other one, and actually come down a bit. And this one is now going to be scrunched up a little bit more, sort of opposite, but it's still going to be forward because we're swinging just a little. And this, maybe not tweaked so far. We got to work on this to make sure that that wrist isn't so broken. So we'll figure out where this goes. Maybe we bring it a little bit further along this way and out, maybe down. And we'll rotate it and see if we can get, you know, we kind of want it going like this. And here's our elbow. Let's bring that down, and it really tucks in at this point as you're swinging it through. This might be a point where I want to rotate the hand to make it look a little more natural. And I can do that either by rotating this or by rotating that locator. I'm going to do it with the locator. So here's the locator, and I can rotate that a little bit, down a little bit, back a little bit, just a little bit like that. Make it look a little more natural. So there's the hit. I could even bring it all forward. If I select the sword and then select the hip too, I can move them both, translate them both forward. Maybe I even rotate this even more so it really has more to it, and this one is reaching even further. Okay, let's just keep it like that. We'll have the head do a little bit of a follow through, so we might want the head to still feel like it's at an angle looking up at the character, following through. The other thing I want to do is have the foot forward. Let's take this foot and let's move it forward like the character had to step forward. Maybe I'll step it forward quite a bit and move all of this much further forward. So now the character's taken a big step when they swing. Okay, and we'll see how that looks. Let's select all of that and hit S and see what happens between here and here. So we have this wind up and then a step forward, a lunge, and that's where the hit happens. Okay, so then we'll do the follow through pose. Frame 15, just 2 frames later, bang, bang. Actually, I'm going to middle mouse I don't want it to go back to this pose. So I'm going to middle mouse drag to 15 and just hit S. So now I've got the same pose there. Kind of blocks it out so that I have it there. And what I want to do is have the follow through. I think at this point we're going to, the motion is going to have twisted the hips a lot more, maybe up a little bit. And the swing, and you go like this, and it's going to be, this left side's going to come up a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to just focus on the spine. The follow through of the spine is going to be even more twisted, maybe up a little bit and rotated that way. And then the neck will still have, trying to look at where it's going, but it's still sort of following behind. Maybe not seeing it in this follow through moment. Grab this. We know the sword is going to come around, and I'm going to just follow the rotation kind of down here and back to the bottom there. So way off to the side on the follow through. And maybe the follow through is back up a little bit, like it is. So maybe it goes down and back up. So I don't know if this should come up a little bit. Maybe it's down even further all the way through. Let's try that. And then we're really going to need to figure out how to twist. This top one here will need a good amount of twist. Let's see. We'll twist that a little bit more. We'll take this clavicle, see where it's going, see where that elbow should go. Oh, that's the knee. Elbow's over here. Elbow should be somewhere down here, pointing towards this area. And this will need to come closer to make that elbow look correct. Now, where's this other elbow? What's this elbow pointing at here? Need to find my elbow pull for this hand. We've got this elbow, IK right. So arm, IK right. So arm, IK left. There's the pull. See, it's stuck inside there. Couldn't really see it, so I need to go find it. So let's make sure that this is in an adequate, an adequate spot here, where it's going to be kind of tucked there. Maybe the sword is a little too tweaked. And kind of move it. Start to play with the rotation to sort of split the difference here. I really like that it's down like that. Maybe we need to bring this clavicle up and back. We'll just sort of split the difference here a little bit. Move it back. Okay, so I really want it rotated more though. Need it more like that. Bring this in. Keep it back there. This looks a little wonky. I can go in here and tweak that hand a little bit, but I just want to get the basics in here. So I'd say that's pretty good. Let me just, with the head, make sure it's not too out of the way. I'm kind of grabbing the gray area here, which gives me just a little bit more freedom of movement instead of just grabbing one of the axes. So there's the follow through. I think the knee is that the knee or the elbow? That's the knee. It's going to need to move a little bit. Actually, this whole foot we're going to do something with. So let's move this over so that knee will kind of open the body in that direction. And this foot, when reaching that far forward, your heel's going to lift up. So let's utilize our reverse foot here. Two different things. Let's get a ball roll going. So I click on ball roll and then middle mouse up. And so now I'm on the toe, which is nice. It makes it a more natural thing. And I think it actually will sort of swivel on that ball as well. So we can do a ball swivel. So now sort of swiveled on the ball of the toe. Okay, and we'll select all of that. And we'll hit S again. And now we can see this animation. Let me just select one thing so we can see where the keyframes are. Start with our ready pose. Anticipation. Hit. Probably pull that elbow out. Follow through. Swap. So if I hit play, swap, swap. So you get that feeling with the foot moving forward. We'll do some stuff with that foot. So now we've got a kind of robotic but initial version of the hit. So those are the major keyframes that you want to have. And now I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it as attack B02 because I've done a lot of work. It's worth saving. Click, 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 click. Okay. Now let's move on. We've done the follow-through pose. Return to ready pose is what we did. We basically, well, the return to ready, this is the ready pose, but there's sort of the return. So how do we get back there in a way that seems, functional? So, so the return to ready pose, I'm calling this pose right here, the bookend. So we already did that earlier. So if you haven't done it yet, you do frame 1, select all, frame 1, middle mouse drag, and then S. And now you've got keyframe on each end. So now we're going to do breakdown keys. So breakdown keys are, where action changes in your animation. You've got your key poses where the major action happens that you've got to hit. And then you've got sort of these in-between areas where you really want to make sure that the action is described well. It's not all the little in-betweens, but it's definitely, so for the sword, how that sword is flowing through its hit. Any places that you need, major places in between two key poses that you need to fix because of sort of the mechanics that are happening. So the first one we'll do, let me read a little bit about this. So this first transition, so if we select something, this first transition from here to here kind of has a problem with the hands being so close right here, and then bringing it up, it kind of gets real close to the chest. So we might want to have it here and then bring it up and around. So we'll choose, we'll go to frame 8 and see what that looks like. Frame 8 right here is kind of nice. And if we middle mouse drag where we are at frame 8 to frame 5, what that'll do is help there be a little bit of a slowdown. So it'll kind of quickly go up and then slow down. It kind of eases in. So if I kind of pull this last frame, go a couple frames before it gets there, and then move that whole pose earlier in time, it makes it so that it brings it up and he kind of settles into that anticipation pose, because we don't want to just go wing, bang, wing, bang. We want to go whoosh, and then there's a little pause. It kind of settles into it and then swings. And so this is a way you can do it, where you can go, here's frame 10. If we go to frame 8, we middle mouse and drag it back to 5. Just doing that and hitting S there, it actually helps it feel like it has a little bit of a pause. It kind of gets up there and sort of settles in gently Let me make sure that it's doing that. Let me select everything. Sorry. Middle mouse drag, hit S. Oops. So we want it to get to about there. We want that pose to be at 5. So if I go to 8 and move it to 5 and have everything selected, hit S. Now it'll get up there and pause for a minute. So let's watch what that looks like. See how it kind of pauses? And so part of the thing we can do to that is create some overlap for the sword. So instead of the sword going right back there, when it gets to here, it should be kind of lagging behind and maybe a little bit more forward. So I might just take the sword itself, move it forward a little bit down, E, rotate it on X, and that'll make it feel like it's coming back. And then I'll hit S, just on the sword. And now let's see what that feels like. Sword lags behind a little bit. If I make it really extreme, you'll see. Make it a little more extreme. So now so the character's kind of already back and the sword's still coming. So it's kind of like I come back and the sword comes up and then I swing. So it's kind of getting the character's movement ahead of the sword. That might be a little too much, so I'm just gonna bring it back this way. So what we see is kind of lags behind and then it meets up. Head can do the same thing. Maybe we take the head here, the neck and the head, just if you want. I like it to kind of have a little bit of a lag to it. So now it's we're making it real snappy. Okay. So we got that. That's sort of a breakdown key in here that makes everything look a little better. You can see how that head kind of rotates right before it swings. Okay, so the next one is the breakdown from anticipation to strike. So here's anticipation, ends here, to strike. So as we're coming down here, we just want to make sure that we're following an arc with that sword. So let's see where we'll do this. How do I tell you guys to do it here? Select the control, translate the sword. Yeah, translate the sword, and also we're going to do the foot to make it feel like the boot's coming up, doing a step. So go to frame, I think 11. Do we want to do 11 or 12? Let's do 12. Okay. So we'll do 12, and we'll look at the sword, and we'll just say, you know what? As this sword comes down like this, I really want it to follow a nice arc. So maybe it comes out to the side a little more. Maybe even rotate it a little bit more this way. I'll just hit S there, and we'll see. So that it follows a nicer arc. And then with this foot, what I'm going to do, select the foot. What I'd like it to do is step forward. So when it steps forward, I want it to get there before this pose happens. So I want it to be a little bit quicker. So what I'm going to do is actually middle mouse on 13 and bring it back one, hit S, so that when it gets there quicker. So these two frames are the same on the foot. So it gets there a little before everything. So not everything all at the same time. But what I want to have happen here is instead of it sliding, I'll actually lift it up. So the heel is off the ground. Hit S. So now it does a step. So now if we watch, I have a nice quick, but I have this step before it slides backwards. So it has a step, 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 step with the slice, and the slice is happening on a nice arc here. Looks good. Okay, so that's a good breakdown key to look at. And then a breakdown from the follow through to the ready. So you probably want one here. At some point, getting back to the ready stance, you want to make sure that it kind of, you feel the weight of pulling that sword back up. Let's just see what's happening. It's a really long time from here all the way back to here. So we have some room here to work. So some of the things that I'm going to tell you to do are frame 23. So about right here, frame 23. We got a problem right here. It's all getting inside here. We want to push this out so that it's out. We also want it kind of down so that it's a little bit lagging behind, and its rotation is kind of lagging behind, so it feels kind of heavier. So it's lagging behind in a lot of different ways, even in this direction. Okay. So that sword just at 23. Swing, and then it kind of takes a while to get back up, and then he corrects it. But it's not just going directly there. So that's a good thing to do at frame 23. Let's see what else. Oh, also the clavicles at frame 23 can come down, so it feels like there's resistance on picking up, pulling the sword up, so you can kind of pull the clavicle down. Make sure the clavicles are rotated down a bit. Give it that feeling. There's a little bit of weight there. I'll hit S on that clavicle, select that, hit S. And I'm not doing the whole character, I'm just doing some pieces of the character. Might even move this over a little bit. S. Okay, it's a little bit broken there, but I would normally go in here and adjust the hands and make sure that on the next time I go through the animation, I'm making sure that all the hands look really tight and are rotating and clenching and moving and sort of in a more natural way. But we'll just keep them kind of stiff for now just to get through this rather quickly. Then there's one more thing. Oh, we want to lead. Let's see. Well, yeah, I guess we could also rotate the spine a little bit to make it feel like it's a little bit heavier. Keep the spine rotated down, so I can come to the spine here. A little bit more weight on pulling this thing up. And also make sure the head is all the way up, so the neck and the head. I want it all the way up looking at the character, ready for the next thing that's going to happen. And the head will kind of lead. So the head sort of leads the way up. See how it comes up a little quicker than everything else? Like following the person, seeing where we're hitting them, losing them a little bit on the follow through, and then the head coming back first to make sure that we don't lose what just happened. So you kind of lose sight of the character when you're in your follow through. You don't always look at them the whole way through. Kind of your body sort of takes you on the follow through. So when we're at 23, we're lifting up that sword and rotated the neck and head. We can make this one whole pose here, I think. We've done a lot of changes, so why don't we just make it one whole breakdown pose for everything. Oh, we want to do the foot as well. So so here's where the front foot, when it comes back, we might want it to wait a little bit. So one thing you can do is you can take it, middle mouse, click and drag it to 23 and hit S, and that way now the foot goes forward, and now you're recovering, and the foot is the last thing to move, so it makes it come later. So forward first, and then the character's already moving on the way back, but I had kept this keyframe here to keep that foot on the ground. That foot stays there, and then it moves back. And I might want to do something with this animation here of the ball roll and the ball swivel, where on the forward here, I think I want a little bit of that on 13 as well. And one thing I can do is actually, just for that, I can shift left click on here and go delete and delete the keyframe there. And now 13 keyframe isn't there, and this is more natural on the back foot. But I'll set a keyframe there anyways, so that it's matching all the other poses. And then it feels like when we get here, I can have that back foot all the way on the ground here, which is this keyframe. It's all the way on the ground. Well, I can just bring that here, middle mouse drag, hit S, and now I've got step forward, and then sort of the recoil on the back foot gets planted before the front foot slides back. Okay, so that's kind of some of the things you can do in animating this. And so I would be, basically finished with the first pass of this and feeling, pretty good. Like I have the character sort of move forward. I got some foot movement. I might want to change some of the timing, but as far as this goes, if I have a character and they step forward and step back into a ready position, they have a little wind up and a slash. That's a good slash. And in your game engine, you might have it go from a slash here to a different position or a different ready animation. But for this one, we've got a nice little slash. Now, some of the other things that I'll do, I'll go real quick, is do some changes in, grab them all, changes in the graph editor. We'll just see what's happening in here. So we're using, it sort of automates how these are looking. I want to make sure that these are flat. If yours aren't, you can select them, the keys on both ends, and you can go to this one up here and say flat tangent, just to make sure that it's easing in and easing out of those beginning and end poses. And you can go through and make sure on each of your elements, just how we've done before, where you'll maybe select your hips and zoom in and make sure that each of these curves feels smooth. So here this is translate X, so it's at the same height this whole time, and then it goes down. So maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want to actually have a little more variation in the height of the hips. They don't change height all the way from the first pose to the hip pose. Translate on that root, I mean. So you may want to change that. On Z, it's kind of coming down and going up. Rotates. Just make sure that they don't have too bad of weird hiccups in them. Go through your spine. Make sure that they don't have any too weird of hiccups in them. If they have a weird little hiccup, maybe like that might be too much happening in a short amount of time. You might want to smooth that out. And the way you'd smooth that out, something like that, which is rotate on Z, which is this down for those 2 frames. It might be that this one just can kind of come down a little bit. And what I do is I select it, and then I shift middle mouse, and that'll force it to just go up and down, because I don't want to move it left and right, because that'll change the timing. But I'm just changing the value. I can just move it like that. And I'm changing that pose a little bit, but I'm also just kind of refining that curve to make sure it's smooth. So go through the rest of your character, smooth it out, and then this is what I expect. Something that's, interesting. You don't have to, yours doesn't have to use the, gotta work on that elbow there. That's the knee. Where's my elbow? I think it's stuck in here. This would be a good part to look at here. So if I go to the graph editor for the elbow pole, and I go, oh, I don't like that. I want that out a little bit more, like that. And then I hit S, you'll see it update here. Now that updated it. So now 2 frames later, that moves way back here. Is that where I want it? Yeah, it seems all right. I can move it out a little bit. Hit S and you'll see it change here. Right? See it adjust. So the way that this wiggles, it's actually what I need because I really need it to move really far. So I hope that's good enough for you all to get an idea of how to build your own animation, an attack animation. Start with some basic keyframes for your key poses, then go into your sort of breakdowns where there's some in-between parts that aren't working too well. Do as few poses as you have to get your basic action done, because then you can adjust the timing easier. So if I don't like sort of the wind up or how long it takes to go back to the sort of ready pose, I could change it. But for the most part, I've got something quick that I've put together in a short amount of time that has all of the elements moving. We've utilized some of the foot and some of the IK on the hands and doing some locators. We also learned about this blend parent thing that you want to make sure that is attached if you try and do any locators and constraints. Doing constraints between things that are referenced in is sometimes a bad idea, because if you have a reference problem, it can be problematic. So one of the reasons why I use locators, just to be clear, is that the locator is part of this animation file, and it's there in the animation file. So if I have any trouble bringing in my references, or I switch out a reference and I want to change something, it's kind of that intermediary between this one reference file and another reference file, so they're not directly connected to each other. Sometimes that causes problems, and I just keep it on the safe side. Okay? So I hope you have fun and make something cool. It doesn't have to be exactly this. It could be the sword doing a different thing, or it could be a cartwheel. You could try something, whatever you want to do. Okay?